Welcome to this week's Mutant Meetup call. We hold these calls every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. UTC. On this call, I have quite a bit of things to go through. A lot happening in the Nexus community this week. First, we'll talk about the ETH2 Staking cover launch. This is a pretty big deal. This is the first new cover product of 2022, and this has been in development for a while. We've had a lot of interest about this, so I'm looking forward to talking about this. I'll talk about that first cover buy from Stakewise, ETH2 staking cover protections. I'll talk about the current active cover and some resources on that. We'll do our regular updates. Just a note that Hugh is off this week, so he won't be providing his regular weekly core team update, but I have plenty to go over. So we'll do a review of cover sales. I'll go through the active cover. And then I'll talk a little bit about the Snapshot Votes that were up. And I'll talk about some of the proposals that are up on the forum. Let's jump right into things. ETH2 staking cover is live. We made this announcement yesterday formally. Stakewise had made an announcement last week when they bought that cover policy. So there's a lot to go over here. One of the big takeaways is that we've had a lot of interest from start of the year now, even previously, of validator operators who are asking if the mutual would be covering slashing type risks. So the first slashing type risk that we are covering is ETH2 staking risks. And this is a big development for the mutual. There's been a lot of demand, and we have that first cover buy through. So let's talk a little bit about ETH2 staking cover. Again, we announced this, and the announcement is in the thread for today's Mutant Meetup call. We announced this yesterday formally. There's a Medium post. We announced this across all of our social channels. We've gotten really incredible engagement on this. Really exciting to see so many people tweeting about this, sharing it on LinkedIn and Discord and Reddit. I've seen in some of the other liquid staking providers' discords that there's been talk about this already. So this has definitely made a big impact. So let's talk a little bit about the protections that are included in ETH2 staking cover. So the important thing to note is that if there's a validator operator and they buy coverage, they can connect with the Nexus business development team by emailing staking@nexusmutual.io. And they can set up a policy to cover their validator network. Depending on how many validators they have and certain other criteria, they can go through and determine the cover policy. But the protections that are included within this cover policy, and the complete cover wording is in the documentation, which I'll go over in a little bit here too. But it protects against all deductions made from covered validators on the ETH2 beacon chain. So if there are penalties incurred or slashing that happens, that risk is covered based on the amount of coverage for the validator. Any missed consensus rewards as a result of being offline. If a validator is offline and ends up missing out on rewards that they otherwise would have accrued if they were online, that is also covered. So penalties and missed rewards are included. And any transaction rewards as part of execution rewards missed as a result of being offline. Now, this applies for periods once the Ethereum network has gone through the merge. So this is another important one. If a validator is slashed and they end up going offline for a period of time, or if they have downtime, then this ETH2 staking cover protects that validator. There are different amounts of coverage you can buy. So 3 ETH per validator, 5 ETH per validator, up to 10 ETH per validator. Again, this is gone over in the documentation as well. And the first cover buy that's come through is from Stakewise. So Stakewise purchased slashing cover from the mutual, and they purchased that first ETH2 staking cover to protect their entire validator network. So they have 3 ETH of coverage per validator in their network, and they've got that comprehensive coverage against penalties and missed rewards. So very exciting to see that. That Stakewise announcement is also in the thread for today's call. And I just wanted to highlight the active ETH2 staking cover policy. So there is a stakewise operated policy and a stakewise third-party policy. Again, this covers the validators across the stakewise validator network. And total coverage as of yesterday is 5,438 ETH. And of course, I say yesterday because the ETH price yesterday, when I put these numbers together, is about 8.3 million in coverage. So pretty substantial cover buys for the first one. Again, lots of discussions happening about other folks who are interested in ETH2 staking cover policies. And so I think there's a lot to be excited about with the launch of ETH2 staking cover. I've also got an entry in the Nexus Mutual documentation that goes over the protections that are included, similar to the entry I have for protocol cover. It talks about an overview of the product, the risks that are covered, the risk assessment process, the claims assessment process, and of course the full cover wording, which you can read right there in the documentation as well. So if you want to learn a little bit more about ETH2 staking cover, you can go right in the documentation. You can also access the complete cover wording to learn a little bit more about this as well. And if you're interested in talking to the Nexus business development team about ETH2 staking cover, feel free to reach out to them. You can send me a message and I can connect you with them, or you can email staking@nexusmutual.io directly. And you can find that information as well in the Medium article announcing the launch of ETH2 staking cover. Typically, this is the part where Hugh goes over the core team weekly update, but Hugh is off this week. So just as a brief highlight, the development team is still making good progress on the comments from the audits. That is being worked on. There's work that's being done on the Nexus v2 UI as well. That is being developed, so still a lot of work happening on Nexus v2. Of course, the launch of ETH2 staking cover was a big development this week. That's something that the Nexus BT team has been very actively talking to others on, so look forward to future announcements on that. And overall, these teams within Nexus, between the core team and some of the Nexus hubs, are working on a variety of projects leading up to the launch of Nexus v2. Still don't have an ETA yet on launch, but as soon as I know that, I will let everyone know. But a lot coming there as well. I'll go over the cover sales for the last week. All of this data is sourced from Nexus Tracker, which you can also find in the thread for today's call. And in the last week, we sold roughly 12.7 million in cover, and the mutual earned a little bit more than 83,000 in premiums. The largest cover policies we had were the two stakewise ETH2 staking cover policies, as well as a large $1.5 million policy for convex finance. The other cover buys that came through, notably large cover buy from Curve, as well as some others with a mix of protocol cover and custody cover as well. So the denomination between DAI and ETH for policies definitely shifted back to ETH as a reflection of the ETH2 staking cover buy. So ETH denomination takes the cake this week with about 75% of cover sold and almost 62% of premiums earned. And the DAI denomination is roughly 25% and premiums earned roughly 38%. So another solid week of cover buys coming through, and hopefully as time goes on, we can sell more ETH2 staking cover and protect more validators who are staking ETH on the Beacon chain and working ahead of the merge and even after the merge. So very exciting news there, and as yields pick up, I anticipate we'd see more protocol cover buys coming as well. And then I'll go over the active coverage by cover type. I started doing this last week, and I think this is just a good thing to do every week to give a little transparency for those who may not have the time to look through the Nexus Tracker. But I have visuals here for all the different cover types. So if we look at active custody cover policies, we can see a total of 24,248.06 ETH in active liabilities for custody cover policies for a total of roughly 37 million. The largest active coverage we have is for YieldApp, Nexo, and FTX. And then from there, Crypto.com, Hold-A-Knot, and BlockFi. Gemini, Binance, Coinbase, Celsius, some of these things start to drop off from there, but notably, some of the largest exposures we have are for YieldApp, Nexo, and FTX. And of course, you can see all of that in more detail on the Nexus tracker as well. Active protocol cover policies, quite a bit here as well, 118,574.34 ETH in active coverage, which amounts to, as of yesterday's prices, 180.7 million in active cover. You can see the two largest cover policies, or two largest liabilities we have are for Wnxm v3 and Anchor. Both of those I don't think are much of a risk of being claimed because Wnxm v3, that large cover policy, was bought by Celsius X. As they're going through the bankruptcy proceedings, I highly doubt that they still have funds in that Wnxm contract. And then Anchor, which a lot of active cover for this still, but there's, I think, less than 2 million or roughly about 2 million in TVL and Anchor at the moment. So I don't think much risk there. But a lot of cover buys for some of those long-standing popular protocols such as Convex Finance v1, Curve All Pools, Aave v2, Liquidity, Yeti Finance, Angle, Gnosis Safe, and DYDX Perpetual. And then it kind of drops off from there. You can also see active cover policies in the Immunify and Matching Bug Bounty program. So anything that's between 2 million and up is going to be included in that list. And again, you can see all of this information on Nexus Tracker, but still a lot of solid active cover for protocol cover policies. For yield token cover policies, we have 4,255.65 ETH in active cover, and that amounts to roughly 6.5 million. The largest and most popular yield token cover is the Convex 3 Curve yield token cover product, with Yearn's YV Curve ST ETH being very popular as well. And then Origin OUSD is still fairly popular. It looks like the Convex MIM Curve exposure has gone down. Not as much demand for that product as there was previously. And then the Yearn YV USDC pool and the Curve 3 pool itself. So all in total, active coverage as of yesterday when I took this was 232.45 million, or 152,000 ETH roughly. I checked that today, and the active cover is still the same, but the ETH denomination has gone down a little bit because there was a fluctuation in the price of ETH. So that is the active coverage. Now I'm going to go through some of the snapshot votes, so recent votes that have closed and one that is open, and I'll talk a little bit about some of the proposals that are on the forum. There are quite a few proposals that are actively on the forum right now, so be sure to check those out. Last week we had put up a proposal to withdraw the Nexus Treasury deposit of Wnxm from Bancor v3. This was put up to vote, and this passed with a unanimous support. So Nexus Treasury signers will coordinate to sign off to remove that 51,523 Wnxm as soon as possible. We are anticipating a loss of roughly 40 to 50% based on the deficit within that pool. It is unfortunate, but as Dopey had highlighted in that forum post from Nexus Investments' point of view, or the Investment Hub's point of view, that their solution that they have in place likely won't occur in any due time, and more market fluctuations could increase that deficit in the pool. So getting funding out, especially in this market, is going to be a really important thing. So this did pass. There is another vote that's active on Snapshot, asking if we should reimburse risk assessors for undue loss from Claim 113. This has been something that's been actively discussed on the forum. The links are within the snapshot post for you to review as well, but the vote is open until Saturday, the 30th of July at 3 p.m. Eastern or 8 p.m. UTC. Option A is to reimburse affected risk assessors 43,490 Wnxm. Option B is a partial reimbursement of 22,000 Wnxm, and option C is do not reimburse risk assessors. The link to that snapshot vote is also in the thread for today's call. Highly recommend everyone read this and vote on this. This is a really important proposal. And we have a couple of proposals that are up. So one is from Dopey. We have a longtime member, Krugman, who's been serving as a community fund, or as we're calling it now, the Nexus Treasury, multi-sig signer. So he's been a multi-sig signer since the community fund was created in February 2021. And now he's requesting to retire from the position, so there needs to be a replacement for Krugman as a signer. Dopey has nominated himself to replace Krugman. And there he's talking about his contributions, but Dopey did start as a member. He's been a long-time member. He was a community contributor for a long time, and then joined as a full-time contributor to the core team. So there's active discussion on this. This will be open for review for 7 days, and then we'll proceed to a snapshot vote. But yeah, this is an important one because this is the list of folks who are on the Nexus Treasury multi-sig, and they don't decide votes, but they do execute based on the will of Wnxm holders and how they vote on snapshot proposals, because that dictates the flow of funds from the Nexus Treasury. There's another proposal up from Vincent talking about selling certain Nexus Treasury assets to buy back Wnxm. Here, if you look in the Nexus financial section of the Nexus Mutual documentation, you can find a link to the community fund. There's one directly on Etherscan, and there's one on Zapper. I've taken a screenshot of the assets in question on Zapper. And so this amounts to, let's say, roughly 170,000 USD at the current values, and I took this screenshot, which is a little bit earlier this morning. And so the proposal is to liquidate LDO, GAL, and Cream. He's saying that the funds could be used to buy back Wnxm, or other alternatives are discussed, such as selling these tokens for staked ETH for the community fund to pay future contributors. Some options there as well. So this is another important one. I know that Vincent and Gautier's had some back and forth discussion on this. I think it is valuable. I would say that I don't believe the Cream is actually owned by the community fund and needs to be redistributed to those claims assessors affected by the Cream claims, because that's what it was claimed in part for. So, but LDO and GAL are definitely on the table. So participate in this discussion if you have some opinion on whether or not these assets should be liquidated. And then I wanted to talk a bit about the Nexus Hubs V2 proposal. So I just posted this one this morning. This is a pretty important one as well. And I'll go through just a little bit of an overview. Both the links to the two proposals corresponding to this are also in the thread for today's call. But with the Nexus Hubs V2 proposal, we're talking about restructuring the Hubs model slightly. So rebranding some of the hubs, so from the investment hub to Nexus Investment, from Mutant Marketing to Nexus Communications, and some potential changes there. This just kind of gives you an idea of what the the protocol's relationship to the foundation and the DAO is currently, and what the functions are of these teams. So from the Nexus Mutual DAO side, the hubs are groups of active Nexus Mutual community members who have formed a hub previously. So Nexus Investment was formed and ratified in October or November of 2021, but of course they've been working on members' behalf since I think April or May of 2021. They've done a lot of great work, and you can see some of that work in the Nexus financial section of the Nexus documentation. Nexus Communications, formerly Mutant Marketing, was established in August of 2021, and I'm the hub lead for that hub. So we've been working on various proposals. Our third quarter will be ending here in the beginning of August. And so this proposal talks about some changes to the hubs model, as well as a formalized process for budget requests, forming new hubs, and things along this line. So as far as the changes for Nexus Communications, we've provided the mission statements, the priorities that we're focused on, which currently is a branding refresh. This entails a refresh of the website, so a new website with updated copy that reflects the value proposition of the on-chain risk marketplace that's coming in V2, as well as SEO optimized copy and some things that really can direct people to the different information that they're looking for when they're coming to the website. A channel analysis of existing communication and marketing strategies across all of our social channels, so Twitter, LinkedIn, Reddit, Discord, Telegram, and just having some data to back up what is and what is not working so that we can deliver the most value for members over time and have further reach through our communications and marketing efforts. Syndicate resources for when V2 launches. With this, we're working with FrindleDAO to do the developer-facing docs for the V2 code base. So they're currently working on those now, and we can use those to create some syndicate resources once that project is complete. And then once we have the resources in place, some things defined within our hubs, and we have that branding refresh done with a website that has a blog. Instead of going through and using Medium, we can have a blog directly hosted on our site to drive more users there to learn about the mutual. We can kind of build out this thought leadership platform that's kind of multifaceted. So growing over time to have a podcast that talks about the different areas within Nexus Mutual, talk about risk and some of these other factors, having a regular blog, having regular content, and over time, what I'd like to develop is a industry journal talking about risk. And this can talk about various kinds of risk, but I imagine it would start with smart contract risk, co-risk, and then we can expand out into other areas of risk as the mutual starts expanding into new kinds of risk as well. So the changes to the Nexus Communications Hub are going to be a little bit broader scope. Currently, I'm working with the Nexus community moderators. You see them in Discord as Mutant Mods, so Dan and Sem. Sem is also working as a social media manager, so she's helping me distribute some of the content that we're creating across our social channels to have coordinated distributions of information to get maximum impact. And then we're going to work to create an in-house marketing agency to help serve the syndicate network. When the syndicates launch, of course, we'll have base support for all of them, but doing marketing for a variety of syndicates that are building on top of the mutual is likely not sustainable over the long term. But if we can build out an in-house marketing agency, we can serve syndicates, provide a lower cost marketing service for them, work with some of our existing partners that we have through a creative agency and a video production company, and give them the resources to be successful, help them determine some effective route to market strategies, and then help them develop an overall channel marketing strategy, as well as some other things, depending on how their market is and what we can do best to optimize for growth within that syndicate. By doing this, we can actually offset some of our treasury spend and bring in some revenue, and we can use this to build up things over time. This could be sponsorship for conferences. This could be used for greater advertising, essentially reducing the spend that we have and then building up more resources to do greater marketing for the mutual. The 6-month budget request, which is broken down on the forum, is $204,513. And again, we have all the roles for the team broken down in a separate proposal, and then a high-level view in that Nexus Hubs proposal. For the Nexus investment proposal, they've got their mission statement, their priorities, which is investing more of the capital pool in ETH staking solutions, which is one of the things we're looking at with that allocation to Stakewise proposal. rebalancing assets and liabilities, which would be looking at selling some of the mutual's ETH for DAI to balance our assets and liabilities a little bit better. And then investing the Nexus Treasury, formerly the community fund. So the changes here specifically are adding Treasury management to the mandate. The Nexus investment would also oversee the tokenomics working group, have some funding there to pay those contributors and to get closer to having that revised bonding curve tokenomics model. So their 6-month budget request is $75,000, and the retroactive back pay for existing Nexus investment contributors, as well as the contributors in the tokenomics group, would be just under $50,000. Notable to point out that their budget ran out in early May, because that's it. They had sought funding from November to May. So that retroactive back pay request would be payment for work that's already been completed, and then that 6-month budget request would be for that $75,000 as well. Again, all of that is detailed on the forum. And then back to a high-level view of things, the flow of funds that would occur if these budgets were approved, or just in the future in general, is that requests would be made for quarterly budgets from the hubs for financing. And so budgets would actually be requested every 6 months through a formal review, but quarterly funding would be distributed from the Nexus Treasury. And this would go to each relevant hub and future hubs as they form. And then syndicates can generate some revenue that goes back to Nexus Communications. And then this could be either sent back to the Nexus Treasury or built up over time for greater marketing costs. So this particular proposal is seeking $329,512 total funding for both the Nexus Investment and Nexus Communications budgets for the next 6 months, as well as some retroactive compensation for the Nexus Investment Hub. This will be open for review and discussion over the next 7 days, and after that, we'll transition to Snapshot. But yeah, I'm happy to field any questions that anyone has. I know that we kind of went over and covered a lot today. But if anybody has any questions, if anybody wants to bring anything up or ask some questions about anything I haven't covered, just let me know. This portion of the call is the open forum. And if you're not comfortable speaking in the general chat, you can always share a comment in the community calls text channel as well. Okay. Well, if there are no further comments, I just want to thank everyone for joining us today. There's definitely a lot happening, a lot of exciting things happening today. And just this week in general, with the launch of ETH2 Staking cover and some of the developments we have on the forum. Really appreciate you joining us and catching up on everything that's happening within Nexus Mutual. I hope you have a great rest of your day and a wonderful rest of your week.